Well, I am Marietta Stepanyants. Marietta Stepanyants, I am a professor of philosophy. I work with the Institute of Philosophy, Russian Academy of Sciences since 1959, so long ago. And my main work, of course, is a research work. And for 32 years, I have been the head or director of the Center for Oriental Philosophy Studies, because my field is Eastern philosophies, and the languages I learned were the languages of India, but the main language I learned was Urdu, which is the language of Muslims in India and Pakistan. And because of that, my first writings and my first books and 2 dissertations were dedicated to Islamic thought, mainly of 19th, 20th century. Later on, I went to the medieval ages and wrote about Sufism. But then I have become involved in comparative philosophy studies. It happened so that in '89, I was the first to be invited from the Soviet Union to participate in the West Philosophers Conference, which usually takes place in Hawaii since 1939. So in '89, they invited me. I went there, and since that, I used to go back there. I directed 2 of the conferences, and I still very closely associated with that trend in philosophy, so comparative philosophy. From comparative studies, which I carried on, and my colleagues, the colleagues who are the academics in Chinese philosophy, Muslim philosophy, Arab and Farsi, Persian, Indian philosophy, Vietnamese, Japanese, etc. We not moved, but one of the trend of our work has become comparative philosophy. And later on, we came to the conclusion that we should bring changes in education, in teaching at the university. Because in the university, we used to teach, because as students, we had the courses on history of philosophy, and these courses were just the courses of Western philosophy, because it has been accepted that there was only one cradle for philosophy, and that cradle was ancient Greece. And the whole course, of course, was mainly ancient philosophy, and if to take modern times and new times, it was Western philosophy, in particular German philosophy, of course. But our involvement in research in Oriental philosophies proved to us that there is a need to teach to give the students much broader vision of what is his history of philosophy, of history of thought. And we introduced the course on Eastern philosophies, mainly on Indian, Muslim, Chinese. This was the main 3. Well, but later, it was about 10 years ago that the Dialogue of Civilization, this World Public Forum for Dialogue of Civilization, they suggested to me to work on the concept of introducing a course on the dialogue of cultures, which was to include different cultures. And I wasn't sure how I'll make the concept of that course, but later on I realized how important it is to teach the students, the young people starting from the school, to teach them this course so that to make them ready for the new times which have come. What I mean by new times, I mean the times which could be called the age of globalization. Of course, dialogue of culture existed for centuries, for ages, but it was limited to locality, to region. First, the people of different cultures who lived in one place were to encounter with each other and in some way to carry on dialogue. Then, of course, the dialogue was to be carried on between the neighbors of different states or different countries. Then the importance with the extension of the relations between the people of different countries, different languages, different cultures. The dialogue has become regional. But never in the past there was a necessity of carrying on the dialogue on the global scale, because the whole humanity didn't, though we lived on one planet, but we haven't been so closely interconnected. But nowadays the need for dialogue has become not only necessary, it has become vital. Why? Because I think that that happened in particular after the end of the what we call Cold War, when globalization has taken a very strong impulse, and when there was the impression among quite a number of people, particularly in the West, that the global processes will bring to the triumph or victory of one culture, one ideology, because this ideology is represented by the strongest nations, stronger cultures. So the idea which got a very wide spread was that in the long run there will be the victory of the Western civilization or Western culture all over the world. This mood, these ideas, they got, of course, a reaction from the peoples who represent the other cultures. And there was discussions, there were polemics, there were hot discussion inside those nations and outside the borders of nations. So what should be the course of the events? Should we all move towards becoming one humanity in the sense that we shall accept the same values, the same institutions? If so, then what will happen with our cultures? What will happen with our identities? I remember very well some 20 years ago, I had a discussion with a very famous American philosopher, a very dear friend of mine, by the way, which was called, he passed away, and he was called a poet and philosopher of postmodern, of pragmatism, poet and philosopher of pragmatism. That was Richard Rorty, American philosopher, a very highly respected person. We discussed the future. And he was sure that in a very near future, we shall have one currency, and it will be, of course, dollar. We shall have one language, and it will be, of course, English, maybe American English, and also one culture, one civilization. And when I asked him, well, Dick, and what will happen with the others? He will said, well, you see, different cultures are like different carpets. So to make one carpet, And we are going to that. And that one carpet will be one civilization, one society. We are to take, what is the English for that? You know, you have
take apart.
No, yeah, we take apart every carpet, and then weave those parts, particular parts together, and we'll get one carpet. I said, well, and if you, what will you do with the such parts, such threads, like, for example, religion? And he was very atheistic-minded person. He said, we don't need it, we'll throw it away. But I said, well, but what will the Hindus say, or what will the Christians say? He realized that they may oppose to that, but still he thought that will be the final. You know, we'll all make one carpet. So, of course, that was his stand, and he had the right to think like that. But I personally think that it is unrealistic, and it will be dangerous to go that direction, because then we shall really impoverish our life, impoverish the life of the peoples. The course dialogue of culture, which we call, we introduced through the organization like Public Forum. We have introduced it to the school children of the high grades. It's the children of the 9th and 10th grade, so they're quite grown-up people. We do understand that the curricula is very limited in hours, so it couldn't be, we can't have it more than 1-2 lessons a week. And the course is for 2 years. So how to teach them about the other cultures is to give them the knowledge about the cultural universals. The cultural universals is the main notions, the main values of which the culture or civilization consists of. And through that they could have the image of different civilization. And then after getting this image, they will understand what is common between different civilizations, and at the same time what is different, what is their specifics. Now, the people asking me, sometimes students ask me, why do we need to know that? Why do we need the dialogue? I would say that we need it first just enlarge the horizons of our knowledge, because if we learn more about the culture in general, we are really becoming rich, more rich in mind and in soul and heart and everything. But there are, of course, political reasons for that too. And if you take Russia, because I would speak on behalf of the Russians, but I think that is the same for the other nations. There are two groups of reasons why dialogue of cultures is necessary. One is external, I would say, and another is internal. By external, I mean that the generation, the particular generation, the younger generation, should be able to carry on dialogue and to be involved in the dialogue of culture and civilizations if they want to live in peace with the others, if they don't want to be hostile to the others, if they want to get some compromises, if they want to be respected and respect the others, they are to know what is the other and what is the other. So this is important from this point of view. The other reason is that if we want to maintain our identity, we can't maintain it or preserve it until we know in what sense we are different from the others. So we are to to know the other so that to know ourselves. And in this way we can also defend ourselves and preserve our own culture. So these are external reasons, I would say. And any country, any people which wants to play any role in international affairs is to be ready for the dialogue. If we are not ready for the dialogue, it means we'll be marginal, we shall be excluded, or we are to be dominated by the other forces. There is also internal reasons. Internal reasons are that we have immense migration. It's all over the world. And of course, Russia is a multinational culture, religious, ethnic languages, that's for ages. But nowadays, it's more than that. We have not only our local different languages and ethnic groups and religions, but we are getting migration from Muslim, from Far East, Vietnamese, Chinese, and so on and so. So we are to learn to live with them, because migration always brings some tension between the people, local ones and those who come from outside. You know that because it's everywhere the same. So again, we need to give some knowledge of the young people about the other culture, so that they would be able to go into dialogue with the others and to live in peace and understanding and respect. There is one extra cause of the need of the dialogue of culture, and this is very personal, I would say, but this is the need for every individual. If the individual wants or wishes to develop, to become, to perfect himself or herself, the individual is to be ready to be self-critical. If you are not self-critical, you will never be able to go along the road of perfection. And to become and to develop and to become self-critical, one is to look in the mirror and see not only his or her face, but also to see the other and compare herself, himself with the other. In this comparison, will help to have your own dignity and understand what treasure you have inside yourself, but it also will teach what are your shortcomings and what should you learn from the other. So this perfection, it is individual perfection, and it's also the way to bring collective perfection. Because when we carry on the dialogue of cultures between different peoples, different countries, different civilizations, we not only learn to respect the others, but we also are able to look critical at ourselves and to make much more perfect our self, our cultures, our civilization. And one more thing which I need to say. Nowadays, in the global society we live, we face global challenges. Among the most maybe important global challenges I would call poverty, ecology, danger of war, and so on and so on. the challenges couldn't be met on our own. We can't deal with them staying alone. We are to do that collectively. We are unite our efforts, and not unite physically, but unite through the values we have. For example, if we look at the ecological crisis and ecological changes, looking into the way how the other civilizations treat nature and how they see the relation between human being and nature may be helpful to us who belong to the Western civilization with a very strong idea of a human being as a czar of the nature, the czar which could change the nature as much as he or she wishes. Maybe in this way we destroy nature very often. Maybe if we look through the eyes of some Eastern people to whom nature is something very sacred, or who look at the nature as something to which they belong, and they don't belong so organically that they don't dare to destroy it. And that's why they say ahimsa, non-violence to everything, including all the creatures and even every vegetables and everything in the world. So maybe this attitude would be helpful in solving the problems like ecological problems. So in this way, I think learning to carry on the dialogue of culture and teaching the dialogue of culture, we could help the future generation to solve the personal problems, the national problems, and the global problems.